I should have known it would come to this. The moment I took that first bite of Melissa's lunch, something shifted. It was a simple meal: grilled chicken, sautéed vegetables, and a side of perfectly seasoned rice. But it tasted better than anything I had eaten in years. It wasn't just about the food. It was the way she placed it in front of me, the warm smile that followed, and the subtle perfume that lingered in the air. My wife, Vanessa, used to cook for me, before everything became a battle, before every dinner turned into a complaint session about how much I worked or how little time I spent at home. Now, the food she made tasted like resentment. And maybe, just maybe, I had grown tired of swallowing it. Melissa, my secretary, was different. She was young, vibrant, and always put effort into her appearance. The way she dressed, pencil skirts that hugged her curves just right, blouses that dipped low enough to tease but not reveal, it was impossible not to notice. She never nagged, never rolled her eyes at me the way Vanessa did. She laughed at my jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. And God, she smelled like vanilla and something forbidden. It started with the food. It ended with something much worse. Vanessa had no idea. Not yet, but she was starting to suspect. Melissa's cooking became my guilty pleasure. Every afternoon, I found myself anticipating lunch, not just for the taste of her food but for the moments we shared. She would bring it in, set it on my desk with a playful smile, and sometimes sit across from me, nibbling on her own meal while we talked. It felt harmless at first. Just lunch. Just company. But I knew better. One day, as she leaned forward to hand me a fork, her blouse dipped slightly, revealing just enough to make my throat go dry. She noticed the way my eyes lingered and smirked. "Careful, Mr. Carter," she teased. "You might end up liking my food too much." Too late for that. That night, when I returned home, Vanessa was waiting with her arms crossed. "Did you eat lunch today?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. I nodded slowly. "Yeah." "Why?" "Because I made something for you, and you didn't even check your messages." "You used to love my cooking, Damon." "Used to." I forced a smile, muttered something about a busy schedule, and kissed her on the forehead before heading upstairs. The guilt was there, but it wasn't strong enough to make me stop. It was raining that evening. Everyone had left the office except for me and Melissa. She had stayed behind to finish some reports, and I stayed because I wanted to. She stood near the window, watching the rain pour down the glass, her arms crossed over her chest. "Looks like we're stuck here for a while," she said, glancing at me. I walked over, standing close, too close. Her perfume mixed with the scent of coffee in the air. "You always stay late," I murmured. "You do too." She turned to face me, her brown eyes locking onto mine. "Maybe that's why we get along so well." It was dangerous, the way her voice dipped into something softer, something more inviting. My fingers itched to touch her, to push a stray strand of hair behind her ear, to see if her lips were as soft as they looked. And then it happened. She leaned in, or maybe I did. I didn't know who moved first. But before I could think, our lips met. It was brief, hesitant. But it was enough to send a rush of heat through my body. I pulled away first, heart pounding. This can't happen," I muttered, running a hand through my hair. She smiled, slow, knowing. "I know." But we both knew that wasn't the end of it. The changes weren't drastic, but Vanessa noticed them. I didn't complain about lunch anymore. I came home smelling like a perfume that wasn't hers. I checked my phone more often, smiling at messages she never saw, and worst of all, I stopped touching her. One evening, as I was heading out, Vanessa blocked the doorway. "Who is she?" she asked, arms crossed. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face neutral. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Damon. You think I haven't noticed?" She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "You don't look at me the same way. You're distracted. And your secretary. I see the way she looks at you." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Vanessa, you're imagining things, am I?" She leaned against the doorframe. "I've been investigating, Damon." Those words sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't just suspecting. She was searching for proof. Vanessa was always a fighter. That was part of what made me fall for her in the first place. But somewhere along the years, that fire had turned into endless complaints, into nagging, into battles I didn't want to fight anymore. But now she had a different energy. She didn't push me further that night. She let it go, at least on the surface. But over the next few weeks, I noticed changes. She started dressing better. Gone were the oversized t-shirts and dollhouse clothes. Now, she wore form-fitting dresses, heels that clicked against the floor with confidence. Her makeup was subtle but elegant, her hair styled like she was always about to step into a high-profile meeting. And she didn't just look different, she acted different. She didn't nag me about coming home late. She didn't roll her eyes when I ignored her. Instead, she smiled. A lot. She even started cooking the way she used to, setting the table like she actually cared. It was unsettling. At first, I thought she was trying to win me back. But then I realized, she wasn't doing it for me. She was doing it for herself. And that terrified me. One evening, I came home later than usual. Vanessa was in the living room, dressed in a silky blue nightgown, sipping wine. She barely glanced at me when I walked in. "Long day?" she asked casually. "Yeah," I muttered, loosening my tie. "I made your favorite." She gestured to the dining table, where a plate of steak and mashed potatoes sat, perfectly plated. I hesitated. It smelled amazing, but guilt twisted in my stomach. I had already eaten. Melissa had made me something earlier, and as always, I had chosen her food over my wife's. Vanessa must have noticed my hesitation because she set her wine glass down and tilted her head. "You know, Damon," she said slowly, "it's funny. A man only loses interest in his wife's cooking for two reasons. Either she stopped making an effort," her eyes locked onto mine, "or someone else is feeding him." My throat went dry. She leaned back on the couch, studying me. "Tell me, which one is it?" I forced out a chuckle. "You're overthinking things, Vanessa. Am I?" She stood, walking over to me with a slow, deliberate grace. "Then let's put it to the test." Before I could react, she grabbed my tie, pulled me in, and kissed me, and just like that I knew I was screwed. Because for the first time in months, I felt something stir in me, and it had nothing to do with Melissa. Things spiraled fast after that. Vanessa became unpredictable. Some days she was warm, inviting, almost seductive. Other days she was cold, distant, like she was merely watching, waiting. I tried to focus on work, on Melissa, on anything that wasn't my wife's sudden shift. But it was impossible. Then, one night, I made a mistake. Melissa and I were working late, again. She was laughing at something I had said, her hand resting on my arm, when suddenly, my office door swung open. And there she was, Vanessa. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, taking in the scene. The closeness. The way Melissa's fingers lingered on me. The guilt on my face, and then she smiled. A slow, knowing smile. "I knew it," she whispered, and just like that, everything fell apart. Vanessa didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just walked out. But the next morning, I woke up to find my closet half empty. She was gone, and she had taken more than just her clothes. My accounts were frozen. My business deals were suddenly in jeopardy. She had been planning this all along. She hadn't just been investigating me. She had been preparing for war. Days turned into weeks. Vanessa wasn't just moving on, she was thriving. Pictures of her started circulating on social media. She was going out, dining at expensive restaurants, wearing outfits that made men turn their heads. She looked happy, and then the worst part, I saw her with another man, tall, confident, well-dressed. He had his hand on the small of her back, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh. I had never seen her laugh like that before. Rage burned through me. I had been the one cheating. But somehow, she had made me feel like the one who had been left behind. And the worst part, Melissa wasn't enough anymore. Because for the first time, I realized I had lost the only woman who ever truly loved me. I tried calling Vanessa. She never answered. I sent flowers. She sent them back, and then, one day, she finally picked up. "Vanessa, please," I started. "Can we just—" "You don't get to beg now, Damon." She cut me off, her voice cold. "You chose her. You chose this. And now you get to live with it, but I spent years trying to make you happy. I cooked, I loved you, I fought for you. And all you did was look elsewhere." Her voice wavered just slightly, but she cleared her throat. "Now it's my turn to move on." And then she hung up. For the first time, I understood something. A woman doesn't leave when she stops loving you. She leaves when she realizes you were never worth it. And I had just lost the best thing that ever happened to me.
Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.